we back, y'all, and we got a smoker for y'all today. All right, know what I mean? Yeah, Super Bowl Sunday. What's good, M3? I see you in the building. Know what I mean? What's good? What's good? What's good? What's good? Know what I mean? You know, hey, don't forget to shout out Rush too. I know you shout out me and Lola, but you got to shout out Rush as well. You know what I mean? You know what it is. You know, you said what up, Rush? All right. Now, you know I'm here with the Black Files family. We here, man. All right. Today's topic is demon possession. Okay. You know what I mean? You know, demon possession, and does it really affect us? How does it affect us? You know what I'm saying? Like, is it really real? Is that something to do with mental health? We're gonna get into all of that. All right. Now, I mean, keep in mind, okay, you know how the Black Files is. We go really left, and we go really right, and we go upside down and around. So be ready, all right? Y'all know what time it is up in here, all right? Be ready for this shit, because that's what we do. All right, let's get it, y'all. So Lola, you know what I mean? I'm a gentleman, so I'm gonna let ladies go first. Build with us, man. What we doing today? What about this demon possession thing? What's good?
Hey, everybody. I think y'all might need to mute up because I got an echo coming back. Y'all know I'm struggling streaming again. Thank y'all. All right, so the issue, it's not even an issue, right? The interesting thing about this conversation is that it's a topic that everyone has some experience in, whether it's directly or indirectly, in terms of whether or not they have things they believe about it or experiences that make them, avidly don't believe in it or don't understand it. Maybe they're in the middle, but everyone has experiences around this. But this isn't a conversation that you hear talked about as much as you hear, talked about, like aliens and stuff like that. We don't talk about some of the weirder things going on here without talking about what might be in, the heavens and stuff. But I felt that this was interesting to talk about because although people do not associate the quote unquote what we call demon possession, and I say, call demon possession is because what we don't understand, we usually associate a negative connotation to it. And right now in present day society, the negative connotation is because it's not nice and beautiful and feel good. It has to be associated with the devil. Meanwhile, the devil is often in iconography associated with everything that feels good, that's nice and stuff. But, because we're human, we're kind of screwed up. So this is why I thought it was really, really interesting. And I'll start by saying that my first understanding about demon possession came when my mother was reading the Bible to me, and she was talking about the passage where it spoke about, Jesus, Yahshua, whatever, when he was like casting out, a quote unquote, what was called in the Bible as a spirit or demon. And he told the demon to go into the pig, or there were pigs by or whatever, and the spirit came out of the person and into the pig, or pigs. And the reason why it was such an enigma for me is because what is the fuck is in that blue drink? Okay, leave. Okay, truth is true, right? We'll talk about the blue drink later, okay? But
some he know that we don't know. Tell the truth. Tap in, baby, blood in.
Listen, I had a party at my house last night, and I had a little bit of a hangover this morning, but I'm okay.
Truth, were you there? Were you there? Truth, put it in the chat. Let us know when you was there, on me.
He was not there. It was not there. It's just we had a situation kick off, and I missed it because I had a hangover. But we'll get back to it. But anyway, okay. When I was little, I I was so intrigued about that story, not because of Jesus or whatever the case may be, but because I wanted to understand how a conscious thing, a spirit which is conscious of itself and others, can, in a sense, supplant itself into the seat of consciousness in a person. And I was really intrigued by, well, where is the person if that spirit is now in the seat of consciousness? Like, where is that person if it's not there? Are they dead? No, obviously. So where did they go while their body was still moving around and doing stuff and talking? Where was the person at? Because they wasn't asleep, they wasn't in a coma. Where were they? And then I found it strange that this consciousness could move itself from this physical body of this person into the physical body of an animal. But it needed a physical body to be active in the world. However, it was separate from the world. You understand? Like it didn't need the world to exist, but it did need the world to manifest within the world. So it was like an avatar, that it went from one avatar to the next, literally like the movie, The Avatar, where people, they were laying down in this machine and their consciousness could be supplanted in another body that was someplace else. It was kind of really freakish like that to me growing up. And so I always walked away from that exchange with my mother wondering, how is it that I can't move my consciousness into another body, but that spirit could? Like, and my consciousness is just as conscious as that spirit, because I am a spirit too, right? So why is it I can't move my conscious? What's up with that? And the whole idea of casting a demon out, which means basically whatever you're doing, it's causing that entity, that we'll say an entity, to have to move aside and allow another entity to take up space in an avatar, which is the body. And it has to now seek another avatar that will allow it to take over its consciousness. And an animal would be a prime example of a being that doesn't have full control over its consciousness. So it's easy to move its consciousness aside and take over. When I've seen movies like, I think it's Seven or something, with Denzel, where there was this spirit moving based on touch, and it was like taking over people's consciousness. That brought me back to the story of Jesus and the pigs. And this is how I got introduced to the issue of demon possession. Now, obviously, I have broader experience with demon possession. And like I said, I'm saying demon so we all can understand the verbiage here, but that is not necessarily what that is. At least I've come to realize that's not what that is. Y'all can give your thoughts on that, and obviously we'll get deeper into it. But that's how I've came to be interested in this topic. Yeah.
Okay. Let me take a pause for the cause. Shout out to my homie Big Rig. Big Rig, what up, baby? Big Rig, we gotta talk too, brother. We gotta talk. You know what I'm saying? We gotta have a talk, brother. No, I'm joking. But I gotta holler at you, Big Rig. Nothing big. You know how we get down. Rush, man, what you think about this, man? You know what I mean? What's your thoughts?
My thoughts on it. Am I echoing? Sound like I was echoing. But my thoughts on it, demons is a real thing. I mean, the body, like, I'm gonna use this analogy so people can understand where I'm coming from. Like, the body is like a mansion with $1 million in it. I mean, and if you live a certain lifestyle, you give permission for these unclean spirits to live in your body they can live in your body. They can live within you in a dormant situation where it would take something to make it manifest for it to take over your whole consciousness. But I mean, in some circumstances that do happen, you know what I mean? But majority of the times they just live within you. They just live within you for for a long period of time until you die and you move on to the next vessel to live in. You know what I mean? Now, you know, like, you know, when you talking about demon possession, man, like, yo, it could be like they're real, like they when it comes, they're real legalistic. You know what I mean? And by me using that word, it's like, yo, they just can't just run up on your body without certain permission. You know what I mean? Like, if you move a certain way, it'll allow them to, you know, come in and live within you. But I'm saying, like, I'm gonna use an example, right? If you do that, you know what I mean, commit gluttony on the regular, right? That there's a demon for that. You know what I mean? And if you know what I mean, if you move in that certain direction, it gives it permission to come through. Now, sometimes they come in cliques. Sometimes, you know what I mean, you might have a legion that live inside of you. You know what I mean? It depends on how you move. And that's why they say it's mad important to put yourself in a humble state when it comes to generational curses. You know what I mean? Generational curses is a real thing. Sometimes you got to put yourself in a position to repent the things that your ancestors had done in the past, because sometimes, yo, those demons get permission to live in dormant with them, and when they die off, they come through and reside inside of you. You know what I mean? And sometimes what makes some of these demons manifest is depends on how Yah's instrument is anointed. Like, if he's like really anointed, it can manifest and start spazzing out. I mean, that's just my thoughts on that. You're
Man, I always love how Rush speak. Like, he give you the streets, right? But he also give you the knowledge and shit. Rush really is a member of the Wu-Tang Clan. He just don't want y'all niggas to know. I'm joking. Oh shit, but Rush, bro, I love how you build, bro. That's why you on here. You know I love how you build, brother. For real.
Word, I appreciate you, gang. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, look, this is my thoughts on it. I think some people, it's not the fact that I feel like there are things that maybe manifest within them, right? And maybe those things that manifest within them bring out negativity, right? Or bring out things that they can't control. Some of it is hereditary, right? There are hereditary things that I know within, you know, within my own family when it comes to certain things that I know affects them, right? You know what I mean? Different things, health-wise, mental health-wise, emotional, physical health. There's certain genes and traits that run in our families, correct? But here's the thing, right? Sometimes I also believe, right? Because we know that at times people have called us, they said we're evil, right? You heard this before, Lola. You're evil, you a demon, you this, you that, right? But sometimes it's the fact that I can see things that you can't. Maybe there's nothing wrong with me, all right? Maybe there's something wrong with y'all, and I'm able to see the truth that y'all want to hide from. Y'all want to hide from the truth. Y'all want to hide from the facts, right? But I'm able to see the facts clearly. You know what I mean? But because I'm able to see things and I'm not moving, you know what I'm saying, in the way I want me to move, and I'm not moving in the way that y'all think I should move, oh, something wrong with him. Or something wrong with her. They got a demon in them. And ain't got no demon in me. I just know that y'all full of shit. Or I just know the things that y'all doing is wrong. And I'm calling it out. So now I'm a demon because I'm calling something out? And that's what happens. Sometimes I believe some people, like I know somebody that they allegedly had a mental illness, right? Allegedly. Now, in a mental illness, I remember they had like a confrontation with one of the family members, right? And they got physical, right? And then once they got separated, they started explaining themselves and how they felt. What they were saying was spot on. Like, everything they said was spot on. Like, and I was like, oh shit, like, everything they're saying is true about this person. Everything they're saying is true about their family. They do that. That person is like that. Yeah, they do. They are fucked up in that way. You know what I'm saying? So I understood what they were saying clearly, and it made sense. You know what I mean? Yes, they had ways that was kind of a little bit, you know, different. But in the differences, I seen how they was very coherent, right? And I seen even with family members, they're very coherent when you ask them about certain things. So sometimes I think these people who we say are demon possessed, or that they have mental health issues, emotional health issues, sometimes they can just see shit, and people don't want that truth to be told. Right? Just like the Black File. Eventually they're gonna cut us off. Yeah, they may cut us off right now. They may shut us down right now. All right, I'm gonna fight for it. They may shut us down. Because the truth is a dangerous thing. Y'all gotta understand the truth. Let me say it again. Not truth was never favorite. But you are dangerous, brother. So is the truth. But the truth is a dangerous thing, y'all. It's a dangerous thing. People don't want it to come out. I'm telling you. It's a real thing. They don't want it to come out. For real, for real. Go ahead, Lola.
I agree with you, but I'll say this, and it's not in disagreement, but rather in a cautionary way, that we have to be very careful what we're saying is what. Meaning, mental disease is a matter of chemical imbalance. That is not a conscious entity taking over another person. That's not what that is. Genetic, let's say, epigenetics, right, can be categorized from a religious standpoint as a spirit, right? Because a spirit is a state of being, right? And a state of being has everything to do with the synapses and memories of a person that causes them to be in a specific state. For instance, if you could not remember who was chasing you, would you be in a state of fear running? Like, if you couldn't remember if you were even being chased, you wouldn't be running. So, we have to be careful when we say demon possession or possession itself, or conscious removal, or however you want to word that, in comparison to the things that we're more familiar with in terms of what we daily deal with, mental disease and epigenetics.
No, but Lola, what I was saying though, what I was saying is that's what people say, right? That's what people can say when they see somebody and they have a mental disorder or they have an emotional disorder. Sometimes they just group them in together. They be like, oh, that person just got a demon in them. You feel what I'm saying? And a lot of religions do that.
Right.
OG, I see you in the building, OG.
Right. And that's why I said we have to be careful with that, because, our parents didn't know any better. And they didn't have the tools that we have. And if we have better tools, yet we're making the same ideological mistakes as people who didn't have half the tools we have. In essence, we are devolving. We're not evolving, we're devolving. That's what that means. So, that's why I said we have to be careful how we line that conversation up, right? Because demon possession is a serious thing, right? But the reason why demon possession is a serious conversation is because we're talking about something that we really don't understand, which is the supplanting of consciousness, which is something that we don't understand how. We don't hardly understand how we are conscious, let alone why our conscious can be moved aside. And even when I say moved aside, it's weird because a non-physical thing is everywhere and nowhere. So where does it move to? Like, it can't move anywhere because it's everywhere and nowhere. So what is actually happening? And that's why we're in the conversation we're in, not necessarily because people are acting in a way that's unbecoming of them. We can actually justify that based on a lot of things. Like chemical imbalance or having additional chemicals in your body that is causing a different effect on your psyche. For instance, someone intoxicated, right, through liquor will act differently than how they normally do. But we all know why. That doesn't mean they have a demon in them, because a demon is a conscious entity. That's what a demon is, at least from the biblical and or ancient standpoint of things. So, like for instance, when we seen the movie Exorcist, right? That wasn't what we were talking about. Was not epigenetics. It was not a mental disorder, right? You were talking about the supplanting of a little girl's consciousness and something else taking over her consciousness that now has to be dealt with carefully, because they're trying to preserve the girl but get rid of the thing in her, which it's almost tantamount to trying to cut open her brain without opening her brain. Like that's what it is. So that's why it was so gut wrenching when we saw the little girl's body being utilized in such a way, yet we imagine her still being there, taking that pain and not being able to do anything about it. Like, imagine suddenly your body starts doing stuff and you can't control it, yet you're still there looking out of your eyes, and there's another voice coming out of your mouth, and there's things happening and you have no control. Just imagine that, and how scary that can be. At the end of the day, now we have to question, what are we if that can happen to us? What truly is a human being if our conscious is the one thing that makes us who we are, not our physical body? Like, what are we? And I think that goes back to, and this is just a theory. There was a movie called The Host, and I think it came out in 2013 or 03, one of, and it was about an alien takeover. But the alien takeover wasn't like a alien takeover the way we think of it. It was a non-physical takeover of a planet, where these non-physical beings came down from the sky and essentially took over the consciousness of almost every single human being. And they were living like regular human beings, but it was a conscious takeover of a species. Now, that legitimately could be real. Legitimately, that could be real, given what we're talking about, right? That legitimately could be real. But the bigger question now is, well, when we see people walking around, right, could it be that they're not what we think they are inside? Meaning this, right now the government is working on what's called remote viewing. You understand? And they're working on how to supplant human consciousness, how to read dreams of someone, how to read your thoughts and see images of what you're thinking. And it's very scary.
Similar to like Inception, right? Like the movie Inception, in a sense, with Leonardo DiCaprio.
It's similar to that, but only that Inception doesn't even come close. Meaning they're not just trying to read your dreams. They're trying to develop technology that can project what you're thinking on the screen. That way they don't have to go into your dreams. They already know what you're thinking. That's where they're at.
Like they're kind of like taking your conscious and your essence and putting it where they want it to be, in a sense.
Not necessarily, because they're still grappling with that. I do know that they're still grappling with what consciousness is and how it moves. Meaning this, just because you can get a snapshot of my memories, right? Like a carbon copy of a memory I saw, numbers that I have in my head, just because you can record that information doesn't mean I'm there. Like, you've just recorded me. Like right now, you're talking to a recording. You're not. That doesn't mean that I'm this thing on the screen. Like, I'm still me. So that's where we're at with that in terms of consciousness. But we're still trying to figure out what is consciousness and what makes it tick. All we know for right now is we have these stories, right, in our ancient past of people saying, like, obviously Jesus is saying that consciousness can move. It can be called and it can be, dispelled. And so for instance, when the little girl died and when Lazarus died and he brought them back to life, he made a very clear statement that you can do these things too. Like, you can do this too, but nobody believes that you can call a dead person back to life, because we are still trying to figure out what is consciousness, let alone how do you manipulate. So this is where we're at now. Like,
did you just quote the Bible, Lola?
What you talking about?
Christian. You just quoted the Bible. I thought you wasn't a Christian. What's going on here?
No. Here's the thing. Whether it's in the Bible or someplace, so the Bible isn't the only place that records things like that. But the Bible is a good example of something that's happened in recent history that we have on record of someone saying that, hey, you can actually call a dead person back to their body. Consciousness can move. You can move your consciousness. I'll say this, right? I remember some time ago, and it's the one dream that was very vivid for me that the rest of my life was premised on. I had a dream that I was in some place that did not look like America, but I felt like maybe I was in the past, or just some other place. And this man was walking up to me, and I knew who it was, like in my heart space, right? And he had this thing with him, and I don't know what this thing was, like, and I can't really explain it, but it was a conscious thing, and I could tell it was conscious of me, but it was with him. It was almost like it was floating with him, like it was there and not there. And he expressed some things to me about my family and about me and my purpose, right? And then when he walked away, the thing like looked at me, but his thing, it didn't have a body, it didn't have eyes, but it looked at me, and I don't know how to explain that, but it was conscious and it looked at me without that. And it's like, it didn't turn to me. It's not like it turned to me in that way. It's a thing that you have to be in that moment to understand, like when you can know a thing, consciousness to consciousness, right? And since that experience, I've understood that, for instance, consciousness doesn't see through eyes, like physical eyes. Like, it doesn't see through physical eyes. It doesn't hear through physical ears. So the question is, when you see something, when you hear something, is that really what's happening in your consciousness, or is your conscious essentially calling that thing into being, and this is how it's happening? Now, again, we're in deep waters when it comes to consciousness, because on a scientific level, or let's say a quantum level, right? Scientists will tell you that a thing appears when you look at it. When you're not looking at it, it doesn't exist. But the minute you want it to exist and look, there it is. On a quantum atomic level. So, when it comes to consciousness, what is consciousness and where is it? Anytime the physical world, which isn't really physical, to be honest with you, when you get down to what things are, it's just energy moving. Like, what are we relative to the physical world? Is the physical world just as conscious as we are? Is this just one consciousness that's happening? And the reason why we don't understand it is because it's all that exists. Therefore, we have no way to figure out what we are, because it's the only thing here. Now, I have a video I wanted you guys to kind of watch a little bit. It's an Indian guy, and he's explaining his take on consciousness. And I find it to be interesting. Not to say I'm fully convinced on everything, but the jury is still out when it comes to this, because what he's essentially saying is that everything is conscious, right? Everything is conscious. And consciousness is a thing that is underpinning all of reality. So consciousness doesn't come into reality. In a sense, the physical world is like it's like a costume that kind of fits over consciousness that already exists before it. And it's weird, because when we say something is possessing another thing, that in essence essentially says there's two things that exist. One is taking over the other. But if all of reality is conscious, there can't be two things. Like, so I just thought that hey lady, I just thought that video would be interesting to listen to. If you want me to share it, it's on YouTube.
Yeah, just you can either email it to me or send me a message, and I'll pull up. Salute to Lady E. Also, salute to Daryl Long. Thank you for pulling up. Appreciate you, family. Appreciate you. You know what I'm saying? Rush, did you want to build on something, brother? We here. What's good?
Yeah. I'm still here, man. My bad, man. Yeah, I just didn't want to interject and be rude. I mean, I was just listening, but how you guys was like talking about how whether somebody's really crazy, or they really got like demons manifesting in them. I was reading this book called two books actually, Divine Revelation of Demons, and another book named When Pigs Walk In. If y'all looking for that kind of certain deliverance, I kind of advise y'all to read that book. But anyway, as I was reading the book, right, this priest, right, he was practicing exhortation, right, on his throat or whatever, right, because you know these demons, man, yo, they got character traits, man. They got personalities, like they're living energy. I mean, they just don't got a body to walk on earth in. You know what I mean? So as this priest was putting in that kind of work, getting ready to extract this unclean spirit out of this dude, he had a hard time getting them out because he didn't know what to say. So as he's conversing with this unclean spirit, right? I mean, he's like, yo, man, like, yo, pretty much, and to the conclusion was like, yo, where you at, my nigga? Like, what location of the body you in? You know what I mean, I'm paraphrasing. This is not verbatim. And he was like, yo, I'm in his mind, right? So the priest put his hands on the dude's head, right, getting ready to put in that pain and get him extracted, whatever, right? And apparently it wasn't the right spot. So the unclean spirit told him like, yo, I'm in his mind. In lame terms, he was saying like, yo, I'm in the soul or whatever. You know what I mean? So after he figured that out, I guess he put his hands on the mix section and actually extracted this unclean spirit out this dude. You know what I mean? And when you in that kind of line of profession, you got to be able to discern whether if it's a mental illness from a genetics perspective, or you really dealing with somebody that got demons manifested in them. Big difference. You know what I mean? You got to be able to tell the two difference of that as you put in that kind of work.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's get to the video. Before I do that, pause for the cause. Wally, what's up, baby? Good to see you up in here. You know what I mean? Salute. We about to play this video. As always, fair use. As I'm about to put the fair use up. Y'all know what it is. Hold on one second, y'all. Put the fair use up real quick.
When does consciousness enter the body during embryo development?
This is so important. Two things which are kind of very important that we see in modern science, which are now reflecting a spiritual underpinning to reality, are in physics, quantum, and in neuroscience or in life science, consciousness. Now, this issue is this: the reason why physics is struggling is because it does not want to, in a way, embrace the idea of consciousness. And no, it's a fluff in the brain, kind of fuzz in the brain, chemical and electrical activity creating a fuzz that gives the idea of consciousness. There's no such thing. Then he writes books and books saying it's just a mismatch between the hardware and the software of your brain. There's no such reality. It's just illusion. So we call consciousness. And modern science is struggling with the idea of consciousness, because when you look at neuroscience and you try and explain what is consciousness, which slice of the brain, they say we have no clue. What it is, we have no clue. Where it comes from, they say we have no clue. No slice of the brain say, this is where consciousness is. There's no slice of the brain. It seems to be everywhere and nowhere. This is very worrying, because the neuroscientists will say we understand there's something called consciousness. We can't locate it. We don't know which slice of the brain. So when you're asking, when an embryo is being formed, where does the consciousness enter? It's kind of like a little stream, kind of, let me enter this embryo. It's nothing like that. Consciousness is a very underpinning to reality. When an embryo is formed, or a living thing is formed, not only just human, any living thing is formed, the thing that's underpinning tries to express itself, and it expresses itself as consciousness in a way seeping through. It's already there. So it's not something that's entering. It becomes visible in living things, including even single cell being. It appears as power of cognition. It's aware of its existence. This awareness is the beginning of the signal there is something more to us than matter. So it is not that consciousness is causing to your embryo or your brain. It is underpinning to reality. It's just that the physical brain, or this living thing, in a way allows it to get a glimpse through, kind of allows it to come through, pop through. That is how it becomes visible in all living things. Doesn't kind of enter like that. It is the underpinning to reality. You see, this is a beautiful thing in our tradition. We say underpinning to reality we call Brahman. The nearest handle we have this word, this phenomena called Brahman. The three words we say is the best handle are: it is of the nature of asti, of existence itself. It is of the nature of pati, consciousness, and the nature of priya, of, if you like, bliss. So underpinning to reality is, basically existence, consciousness, and bliss. And when it becomes visible through a human frame or through a living frame, the nearest three words we use are of the nature of existence, consciousness, and of bliss. This is why consciousness is not a minor phenomena that pops out when human beings appear on earth. Consciousness is a very underpinning to creation. Even when the Big Bang takes place, is in the realm of consciousness. So it's not that consciousness is there to wait, oh, human being, let me pop out. It's already in the realm of reality. It only becomes, it gets access to this physical frame when a human being can open, look around. It's already underpinning to reality. And people like Stephen Hawking, etc., make fun of consciousness. But they're not recognized, not something that is pours out of living thing. It is something which is all living things. It just finds a manifestation when a living thing kind of says, oh. So it's not something that in a way is a product of brain. It is something that it requires a brain to express itself. That's the best way to say it.
Yeah. So that's kind of like, something I found was interesting in terms of, hey, House of Ash.
Salute the House of Ash. Salute the Alonzo Hall. Good to see y'all. Go ahead, Lo. I'm sorry.
I found it interesting that his premise is that consciousness itself exists, and then the physical reality forms around consciousness. So in essence, right, your conscious existed before your physical frame. Your physical frame just kind of like found its expression through when the cells started coming together, the first cell or the first two cells, and that's when, boom, consciousness had, let's say, a beacon to hold on to for it to like manifest through something living. That's the way he explained it. Now, what's interesting, the way he explains it, is that, okay, consciousness exists, right? It is existence itself. So my thing is, why do we have different consciousness, different awarenesses, as he put it, that can find residency within the same physical like being, right? Like the pigs, like their consciousness already existed, and then something else found residency within their bodies. Same thing with humans. There is another video I wanted to show. Now, I don't know about the pausing of it, because it's like you kind of have to listen with the accents. It's a video about, West African voodoo, where you see like, possession, like how it looks in ceremony, and how that can, how that plays on our psyche when we look at, let's say, our own religious beliefs as far as like, possession and clean or unclean spirits. At least from what I saw in a lot of my research, is that in certain religious rituals, right, all spirits are clean. It just so happens that some of them have purposes different than the others, right? When you mix them, this is when it becomes muddy. So, versus in the Americas, any spirit that's not your spirit is unclean. And it's a problem, right? However, if there's an unclean spirit, there's clean spirits. So does that mean that people can be possessed by other things other than themselves? And we don't know about it because it's not being expressed the way we seen in movies like, with like the exorcism, right? Like with all this crazy stuff happening. It's like, so let's suppose a spirit isn't expressing itself that way. It's expressing itself just like how I'm talking to you right now. Would you be able to tell? So it's like, We're talking about humans and something else, right? That's not us, that's expressing itself through us. But it's similar to us because we're conscious beings. We're consciousness itself, but there's something else there aside from consciousness or our consciousness that exists. And this is where I might disagree with the Indian guy that was just speaking, because if consciousness is reality itself, you're talking about one consciousness. If you want to go as far as to say you're talking about expressions of different consciousness, right, coming through, well, that's fine too. But that is already accounted for in the human experience. Like you're a consciousness, I'm a consciousness, right? We're not clashing. But let's suppose I wanted to supplant my consciousness in Russia's body. I have to remove him in a very violent way, and I have to take over his body in a forceful way, right? So now you got conflict. However, if there's only one conscious,
right there, what you're talking about, you're kind of expounding on astral projection.
No, I'm not. I'm not talking about astral projection. I'm just saying theoretically, if
in that lane, how they move, that's their whole agenda, is to take over another human being's body. I mean,
keep in mind, all possession is taking over another human being's body. That's why I say I'm not really.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there, man. Food for thought.
Oh, okay. Well, astral projection may be maybe a deliberate attempt to do something similar. However, when it comes to possession itself, this is something that comes across to me as a violent takeover of a consciousness.
I got a question quick. What is astral projection? I just want to know because I don't know what that is.
Astral projection is when someone consciously allows their body to go into a certain state of sleep, and then they take their conscious and move their conscious according to them outside their body into other parts of the physical world, right? And they can essentially be behind the scenes and not seen and be someplace else that they just want to be. Some people have said that they can possess other people's bodies while doing this, but I've heard stories that if you take your consciousness out of your body and quote unquote do something with it, what you can do is leave your conscious behind. And there's this, now this is what people say, I don't know, but they say there's this cord, like, and maybe this is theoretical, but there's this cord that if it's broken during the time when you're astral projecting, based on what you're doing, whenever you're doing this thing, right? You won't come back. You will essentially die in that state, and you won't come back. And I don't know if your body dies or if you become brain dead or whatever the case may be. But people have said that astral projection is nothing to play around with. It's not voodoo. It's none of that. It's nothing that you can, throw off to be magic. It's a thing that you can do if you practice it enough. But again, you're in deep water right now, and most people don't understand consciousness, so they're just getting into these things, don't know what it is. But essentially, that's what people are saying is happening during what's called astral projection.
That happened to me one time. One time I was asleep. It happened to me more than once. I was asleep one time. And I was in my room and I was walking around my room, but it was like my room had changed different colors or whatever, right? And I was in there or whatever, but the thing was that while in there and all that, I was able to see my room, feel it and all that, and feel what was around my room. I felt the floor, I felt everything, and there was times I felt I was floating in my room too. I felt I was actually floating. You feel me? And but then, all of a sudden, I jumped back in my body. I did it conveniently, and I wanted to wake up. And I was telling myself yo, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. And cause it got a little too real for me. It was I'm not used to this. I got scared. So because I got scared, I jumped back in my body, and then I woke up.
I had a similar. I think we may have spoken about this some time ago. I had a similar experience that when I was about 5 or 6, but mine was involving my mother. I don't know how it happened. I just know I'm walking around the house and I'm doing stuff, and it's late at night and I'm just walking around because I can't sleep. And I go into the bathroom and my mother's in there taking a bath and she's reading the newspaper and she's doing stuff to herself. and I'm just watching and I'm standing there and, I didn't have anything to say. I was just bored. And my mother, she didn't recognize me. She didn't acknowledge me, let's say. She was just doing what she was doing. And so I just kind of got bored after I fixed myself some cereal for what I thought was cereal. And I looked outside. Outside looked kind of weird. It was almost like time. I was in the middle of time, meaning time was happening, but then time was past. And it was weird. Like I just remember that weird feeling looking out the window, like I wasn't in time. It was like I was in between time. But then the next day, I'm just talking to my mother regularly, and I'm telling her, hey, when we were in the bathroom, were you reading the paper about yesterday? And she's like, how do you know I was in the bathroom? And I was like, because I came in there. And she was like, you didn't come in the bathroom with me. And how did you know I was reading it? How would you know what I was doing? And I was little, and I was like, well, I don't know. I was standing there. You just wasn't talking to me. And she was like, you didn't come into the bathroom with me. Because remember, back in the day, all you had was the old school tub, no shower. Just a tub full of
I remember that. Yeah.
So she was in that tub.
Hold on. When you looked outside, right? To me, when I looked outside, it was like orange and like kind of pink or something like that. It was like this weird color. You know how like the sunset and it get kind of like those weird variation of colors? That's what outside felt like me. And it was for some reason it was like really warm. You feel me? Like it was mad warm.
I could feel warmth too, but what happened with me is it was like things were split between night and day. But I was right on that line between night and day, and I was looking in this direction, it was complete daylight, and I looked in that direction, and it was complete black, and it was like the right where between night and day, but I wasn't on either side. It was weird, and this is just me looking out the window at the house I grew up in. So, when I come around, I'm telling my mother about what's happening, and she doesn't believe me. She's like, I was in the bathroom. You didn't come in the bathroom and look at me. So how do you know what happened in that bathroom? And so my mother never reconciled that experience with me. And I don't know what happened and how I was able to do that. But clearly I know my mother wasn't lying, because they called a priest to cast the demon out. And they were really spooked out about that. And so, that's my experience with having my consciousness in a place where I could see the physical world and I could be in the physical world, but I wasn't affecting it. So no one could see me, but I could see them. Yet my body was still living. And I went back to my body, or let's say my body called me back to it. But this goes back to what I was saying earlier, when you have people saying that you can call consciousness back to a dead body, not a living body, but a dead body even. Now, when we talk about these experiences that we've had, it's like, well, okay, maybe there's some merit to that. And it's not just some stuff that we just need to quote unquote believe for the sake of not going to hell. Maybe it's something to this. But I don't believe that I was possessed, let alone by anything other than myself. However, I do believe that if I can leave my body and do something else and then come back to it based on what I truly am, which is not this physical body, but a non-physical entity, then I can understand how another entity could take up residency in my body, because I know what it feels like to not be in my body. It doesn't feel like anything. It just feels like I'm just someplace else. It literally feels like nothing. Mm-hmm. So, this is really where the strange part starts coming in at, because again, like the Indian guy said, consciousness is the underpinning of reality. So how many consciousness is underpinning reality? It can't be just consciousness itself. There's more than one consciousness interacting at once behind the scenes. And therefore you have what's considered possession, but we say demon possession or unclean spirit when it's when it's forced, when it's causing some level of friction, when it's causing a problem, right? Because if it wasn't causing a problem, we wouldn't even know the difference. And that's where I thought the movie The Host was really interesting, because you wouldn't know that the whole planet had been taken over by aliens, because it just looked like Everybody was just doing them, but people were being like taken over. Their consciousness was being taken over while they were still there in their body, but they were kind of like near their body, and they understood what was going on, but they wasn't in the driver's seat, you know. So like when you play in a video game and you're in second person, which like right behind the character, and you can see what's happening to it, and you versus if you're in a virtual reality, you're looking out the character's eyes, so you're not going to see what's behind you, to the side of you, all over the place, because you're in the eye space. Like you're in the seat of consciousness now, in the first hand experience versus second hand. So that's how I imagined it, as far as your consciousness being taken over by something else, and now it's controlling your body. It sounds very scary, to be honest with you, because if something was controlling your body, the question is, how would you get it back? Because obviously it has abilities maybe you don't have, or you don't know you have. So, you know, I'll be honest with you, like sometimes when I see certain things, weird things happening, I feel like at times it's just another side of us. It's not necessarily a separate entity, right? Sometimes, like in the system of Voodoo and the Orisha system, those are the ones I'm more familiar with. I don't believe that that's possession. I do feel that there's an aspect of humanity that we can call on that seems like something outside ourselves, but it's not. It's just a different part of who we are. And honestly, if we know that we have different natures about us simultaneously happening, we can justify why, okay, in one moment we can be ourselves, and in another moment we can be completely an altered ego, which is an altered self with a whole nother personality. I mean, I've had my experiences with that I can't put on here. But it's weird because I've experienced an altered ego with its own thoughts, like that's separate from my own. Like I've experienced that. And so, and one time it happened and I was like the flip? Like it was real. It's weird, but that's another stream. Like that's getting a little too deep. However,
it's Black Side. What you mean?
No, it's getting into another conversation, because that's not demon possession at all. That has nothing to do with demon possession. But it just goes to the point that a consciousness, right? You can experience a separate conscious from you that has its own memories and its own separate division from yourself. There is a way to experience that. It's not something everyone experiences, but you can. But again, you're in deep waters here, and I wouldn't suggest playing with consciousness, because you're not the one to come and save yourself if anything goes wrong. Like Russ said about the astral projection. That you can die like that. So you know, that's what we're talking about. But I'll say this, right? If anyone has ever went to church, right, and they've seen how people have said the Holy Spirit, right, possessed them, and they started running and dancing and chanting words that they didn't know the meaning to, right? If we can come away from the religious part of it and just focus on what we're seeing happening, I think we may be able to have a more cohesive conversation about possession, because people are not, we take the word demon out of it and talk about what are we seeing. We're seeing another entity take over you and sit in your seat of consciousness and move you as it wills. So whether or not you're Christian, whether or not you practice voodoo, whether or not you're in the Vedic traditions, at the end of the day, this possession that we're talking about within a religious context can happen within clean, quote unquote, clean spirits, right? Like that will make you shout for joy. That'll make you turn into the thing that you need to be. There's clean possession out here, at least when it's in an extreme form. But in the negative form, this is what everybody knows about, that everybody makes movies about. Nobody makes movies about clean spirit possession and what that looks like. They don't make movies about that. It's it's just not interesting. We're only interested in the spirits that make you do extra dumb stuff. And so, that's where I feel like as a society, we're dropping the ball. We're not balancing the conversation about possession and what a demon is. We're really not at all.
Rush, you can go ahead, family.
Yeah, my bad, man. I ain't want to be rude, but definitely, this is some spooky stuff, man. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't, subscribe to this. You know what I mean? Even like Christians, they don't subscribe to this fully. That's not even something that they even expound on. It's it's not even something that they look into, even though it's a real intricate thing to talk about demon possession. And yo, man, it's it's a crazy thing, and it's a real thing, like I said, man, if you're seeking for I guess more knowledge on this, man, there's 2 books you could cop. Divine Revelation of Demons, and another book called When Pigs Move In. They got a part 1 and part 2. Like, the book was so good, I read both them books within a week span. And it does cross reference back to like biblical principles. Food for thought, man. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, this is definitely some spooky stuff we're talking about.
Who was that by the When Pigs Move In?
I forgot the author's name, man. Hold up.
When Pigs Move In?
Yeah, When Pigs Move In. I think his name is John something. Hold on, I'm about to tell you. I read this book like 10 years ago, man.
Oh, I see. It's on Amazon.
Yes, yeah. It's on Amazon still. Don Dickerman. That's his name. Don Dickerman.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a real good book, man. You know what I mean? Food for thought.
Yeah. And keep in mind, right, that inside, let me add this to my cart. Keep in mind, right, that...
How many books you got in your cart?
Huh?
How many books you got in your cart?
Right now, that's the only one I have in there because I buy stuff. But keep in mind that the Bible does specifically say that the war that human beings that they're in is a war that they can't perceive, they can't see, and the Bible doesn't really put it like you're warring with yourself. It doesn't say you're warring with your past emotions and stuff like that. That's not what it says. It says you're warring with an unseen force in terms of principalities, like things with authority to be different places. So it's like, well, what are we talking?
Yeah. Like, for example, right, when I was reading the book on Divine Revelation of Demons, right, this one dude, he kept bumping into this spirit named Baha Bones, right? And this nigga, he got a clique of like a kingdom. Like, some of them have kingdoms that roll with them. You know what I'm saying? So you might have one demon that's attached to like 100,000 demons. They come through. You know what I mean? They do their thing if they got their permission to dwell inside of you. And every time when he was putting in that work, man, he always bumped into Baha Bones, man. That was the name of the spirit that he kept bumping into. But yeah, some of them have like kingdoms and like different cliques that they roll with, like. You know what I mean? Because there is a form of what's the word I'm looking for? Like a form of like hierarchy. Like there's levels to this shit. You know what I mean? You might have a normal, it's a normal unclean spirit, just cast it out, you good. But you know, there's ones that, you know, they got a whole legion in you, you know what I mean? And you gotta put in that like a lot of effort to get it out, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Man, I will say this though, as far as the war within yourself, right? I'll say this, and I do believe like sometimes maybe it is like, you know, demons or maybe other things that may have come, or maybe it could be like mental, emotional health, or spiritual health, or whatever, right? It's a lot of factors. But this is my thing, right? I do believe that there's a war within ourselves. Cause like there's a part of me where, you know, I like to help people, I like to love people, I like to give and do great things. But there's a part of me which like, if I gotta turn up, I'm on your ass. You know what I'm saying? So like, I have that side, and both at times conflict with each other. There's times where I'm in conflict with myself, where I'm like, man, I want to do this right thing, but sometimes I'm like, man, F it. And then sometimes I'm like, no, I'm like, F it, and I'm like, nah, I can't do that. That's wrong. You know what I'm saying? So I do feel like it's two sides of me. You know what I mean? I feel like we all got that. And I'm conscious of both. You know what I mean? And I actually like both. I
But
like
you know
both
what?
of them motherfuckers. Alright?
But
I like
you-
Mr. Best in the world, and I like the other, I guess his name is Mr. Worst in the world, or whatever you want to name him. I like both of them niggas, and they both are cool, and I think they both are great people. You know what I'm saying? Because I meet both of them.
Well, I would say that I don't think that's what the Bible was referring to when it says your enemy is an enemy that you can't perceive with the eyes, in a sense. Like it's something deeper. It's something you can't see.
It's in my spiritual world. Saying enemies are not physical, but spiritual. I know scripture.
But the thing is, the Bible uses the term spiritual world, right? And that word spiritual world it's a word that doesn't necessarily fit what it's talking about. But keep in mind, you're talking about rudimentary language, and you're talking about English conversion, right? So when the Bible says spiritual world, you can just consider that to be the non-physical world behind the physical world, right?
The main thing, it really explains to you that you're not wrestling with the flesh and blood, that you're wrestling from. You know, I'm paraphrasing. This is not verbatim, but you know, you're wrestling with spirits and high levels of principality.
But what I'm saying is that the Bible, the way it's written, some people would say when it explains itself that way, that your problems or whatever the case may be, especially when we talk about demon possession, is about something that is your flesh, right? Or whatever the case may be when it comes to you, the sinful part of you. But when you read the Bible in full, it's not saying that you're warring against your other nature. It's not saying that. It's saying that what's going on in the world right now is something that is being perpetuated by something that is not you, but it is conscious of you, and you cannot see it. And the way it moves is behind the scenes. Now, and I don't mean to scare people, but if you take the religion out of the Bible for just a second and just listen to what it's saying, okay, it's telling you that on this planet, in this reality we're talking about, there's different consciousness, some that belong like you and some that don't, and they move in this realm on this planet, and you cannot perceive them. Sometimes you will, like you said, Rush. There's times when you can, but then there's times when you can't. And this is where the war is, because you're a non-physical being yourself, but this is a non-physical being too. And you're at war with it. And the war that I'm wondering that the Bible is talking about, is it the war of keeping the seat of consciousness clean, meaning away from these entities that we call spirits or demons? Because when they take over, who's to say that they're going to give up that place in reality back to you?
Lola, people, and I had a conversation not based on this, but it was similar. It was basically the conversation was, how can we help black people and is our culture trash and all that stuff, right? And there were some people up there who believe in certain things, and I was saying, man, we need to put our religious stuff to the side and look at the core issue, right? Look at the core issue of the hood, look at the core issue of things that need to change within our people, within society, within politics, economics, all that, right? And they're not able to do that. A lot of people who are Christians, they are not able to decipher one argument from another, and they're not able to split that. right? And if you try to have that conversation with me, like, man, okay, stop looking at it from the eyes of a Christian, you're not able to do that, Lola. I'm telling you. They're so engulfed in it, they can't do it. They won't allow themselves to do it. And if you try to do it with them, you're going to be pulling teeth. But go ahead.
I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying about the pulling of the teeth part. But I'm not trying to tell someone that their belief in what I understand is the super consciousness, right, isn't real, right? But it is to say that the Bible isn't what you think it is. It's not just an instruction book to tell you be good and be nice and you'll get something good when you die. Like, that's not really what the Bible is. Don't get me wrong. There's a part of life where that's kind of obvious, but the Bible actually is more like a roadmap to a code that if you know how to read it, you'll understand what it's really telling you. And that's most ancient books, because, you know, the truth is not going to be open for someone to come and discard it. It's going to be well hidden. And I think that the best place to hide information is in plain sight.
Yeah, like now, like the Bible, right? And it also expounds on this too, and gives you a breakdown on what you're supposed to do as you read in these scriptures to get the proper interpretation. Like, in order for you to get the proper interpretation reading the scriptures, that you're supposed to be as one with the Ruach. You know what I mean? Especially when you're reading this joint and as you're praying too. You know what I mean? Because the Ruach plays a pivotal role for you to you know what I mean, to make that crossing grounds, you know what I mean, to the afterlife, you know what I mean?
I think that conversation may be it might be outside the scope or realm of this conversation, but I think when we say, well, you need the Ruach to properly understand something, what that's doing now is saying that as a human being, your intuition that is a God-given thing isn't enough for you to interpret just regular information. You need something outside of that, which is the Ruach. Now, mind you, if you study linguistics, if you study linguistics when it comes to the term Ruach and where it's been placed in the Bible, the word Ruach does not mean anything as to what we're talking about in terms of now. It's an actual physical thing, and it's going into that spooky shit that most people don't want to acknowledge when it comes to the Bible, because the Ruach that's an actual physical thing, like, and it's not a thing that, like, it's a physical thing you can get into. That's what I really mean. But again, people don't read the unabridged versions of the Bible. People don't read the Hebraic versions of the Bible. They do not compare the Greek to the Hebrew. That they don't do that. And so when they use phrases like you have to have the Ruach to understand, and it's like, if you understood what you just said, what you're saying is you have to be of a certain bloodline that has been inside of a vehicle of some sort that has came down to earth to understand what this book is saying. That's what you're saying when you use the term Ruach. Like, that's what you're saying. Like, based on the language itself, not based on our culture of what we believe it to be in terms of having a spirit that allows you to understand the thing. Like, that's not what that is. Now, I'll be honest with you.
In many terms, man, you're not supposed to rely on your own understanding. I mean,
that's weird, because the reason why you've been given a certain level of understanding as a human being was because you have dominion over the earth.
This is a cultural aspect. You know what I mean? Like, we're not going to come to agreement with this. You know what I mean?
No, I'm saying human beings have a certain level of intellect that other species do not have for that reason, because they have an understanding.
If you're just going to read the great book without the Ruach, it's just great literature. That's it.
It's not great literature. You don't need to be of any specific religion to read something and understand what it's saying, but you have to want to understand. And like the old saying goes, where there's a student, a teacher will appear. That what that really means is if you have the will to learn, you will learn. That's really just how reality works. It's not really.
Let me ask you a question real quick. Why do you feel that way? Why do you feel that so strongly, family? I gotta ask. Like, why do you feel that way?
as a believer, you know what I mean, that it's imperative to have the Ruach. For example, when you read scriptures with Daniel, right? Daniel was able to interpret certain things on the writing of the wall. The only reason why he was able to make that interpretation is because he had the Ruach. You know what I mean? So you cannot rely on your own understanding when it comes to these scriptures. You know what I mean? Now we're not gonna come to play because we you know what I mean? When it comes to this, we got our strong opinions on that. You know what I mean? And it's cool. And I enjoy conversing with Miss Oshun because, I enjoy chopping it up with ill intellect. You know what I mean? But we ain't going to come into agreement with this.
But we don't have to come to an agreement with it. But the thing is, right, if we're going to say that we all need a specific Ruach, and there's no way to determine that, now we're nullifying even our own intellect of having a conversation. Because I've never lived my life feeling like I've had to have anything to be able to hear a thing, and my compass that God gave me to know which way to go is off because of something else outside of what God has given me. And I truly believe that the Creator has given each and every living thing, all that it needs to move in this world. So to say you need something outside of yourself to literally just move in the world,
I'm trying to argue, man. Yeah, I got you.
Going back and forth to a place that nullifies the point of even having a conversation. It does, in essence, like it really does. So I can't.
I got a question before Rush responds to you. So which God are you talking about, Lola? You talking about the God of Israel? You talking about Jesus?
No, I'm speaking very loosely here when I say God, right? Because it can apply to any religion.
Which one is influencing you to give you direction? Which one?
No. I didn't say any specific God has influenced you to do anything. That's not how reality is set up. At the end of the day, that which exists, that is the Creator itself, the super consciousness. Everything within its consciousness has all that it needs to move within its own conscious, meaning that everything a rock needs, it has to live in this consciousness. Everything a human needs to live in this consciousness, it has. Everything an animal needs, everything a single cell organism needs. There's nothing outside yourself that you need. But here's the thing: as conscious beings, at times we don't utilize all that we have, and therefore we feel, okay, well, we must need something else outside of ourselves to understand. That's not how that is. Like, and here's the thing: there's nothing in any religion that tells us that you have to have a ruach, and that word comes out of the Jewish community, and they have their own folklore as it pertains to that. There's nothing inside of any religion that says you need something outside of yourself to do anything. The only thing that, at least in my estimation, in the Judeo-Christian or Muslim sector of religion, is that
it tells you specifically that's what you need in order to.
You're not reading it for what the word means. The word in its original language does not mean the way you're saying it, like a spirit of some sort that comes over you. Like, that's not what that means. And now, if we're going to assume that, right, then what we're going to say is there's clean spirits, right, and there's spirits that aren't so clean.
So here's consciousness. Everybody pause 1 second. I got a pivotal question. I still want you to build on. I still want Rush to respond. But what is this Ruach? I don't even know what y'all even talking about. Like, I'm sorry.
The Ruach is another word for Holy Spirit, man. Yah's divine spirit. I mean.
Oh, okay. I know what the Holy Spirit is. I know exactly what it is. But go ahead.
Okay, so Holy Spirit doesn't make any sense when it comes to the way reality is set up and the way, religion is set up. It's like everything is the Holy Spirit. Like, everything in existence is the Holy Spirit. Like, for real. But if we're going to say a Holy Spirit, here's the thing, right? If something isn't of God's spirit, it's of what spirit?
The devil, right?
Okay, so if the devil has an equal spirit out here, right, operating behind the scenes, that means that God is not all powerful, because there's two gods operating that has equal spirit that equally affect reality. But the way religion is set up, that's not how it is.
The author of good and evil is Yah himself. Yo, before a demon makes his
but the reason why I'm saying be careful with that word is because it's in a different context than what you're understanding it.
Oh, so damn! I don't cut you off.
Hold on, I was talking and I let you cut me off so that you could ask the question about Ruach. But what I was trying to say to you earlier,
best answer question, and I answer this question.
I'm talking about before that. I'm talking about before that. When you were talking about Ruach, and I was saying it doesn't make any sense because the word itself, if you look up the word itself in the original language, it does not mean spirit, and it definitely does not mean something that's not physically seen. So this is the problem number one with that. Number two, the way reality is set up according to religion and non-religious understandings, you cannot have God being a separate entity from the devil, not one doing two things, but two separate entities acting on the same physical thing, like at the same time. That's not how it works. Like, that's not how we've expressed it. That's just not how it works. That's not how even the Bible has expressed how reality is set up, even in its most flawed understanding. That's not even what the Bible has ever said. So what I'm saying is when we use these terms like Ruach, right, we have to be careful because, again, the word spirit, that word is very obscure. Even in our own culture, the word is obscure.
Rush, if you want to jump in and debate with Lola, just jump in and debate with her because she gonna keep going on and on. She like to be challenged. She likes for men to step up. You know what I'm saying?
You like
and show masculinity. She like the masculinity to be shown. That's what she like.
I don't mind.
You know what I mean? She like to show that masculinity.
I ain't trying to argue. Man.
You don't gotta tell Rush to argue, but all I'm saying I'm not saying to Rush that like we can't talk about spirit, right? But what I'm saying to Rush is that in English, right, the way we understand the word spirit from the actual Hebraic terms, it's not talking about the same thing. When you actually study that language and that culture, there's a divide there. So we can't talk about actual physics from the standpoint of the Hebraic culture mixed into the New Age culture of English. Like there's a degree of separation that we have to maintain there. But to his other point, that you can't understand anything unless you have the Ruach. My thing is the Ruach, if we're going to look at it in terms of what he defined it as, that's everywhere at all time. Everywhere. Everything. If the spirit of the thing that created you is no longer there, you no longer exist. Like you literally existence disappears. There is no memory of it. There is no physical thing of it. Nothing. It does not exist. So this is why I say I don't subscribe to thinking that I need something outside myself to just simply understand something being said.
I'll jump in when I'm when there's an opening, man. Just keep
go ahead.
All right?
Yo, nah. Listen, you gotta get her, okay? If you wait for Lola, you're gonna be waiting the whole stream. You cannot wait. All right. Lola likes assertiveness and aggressiveness to a certain degree. I don't know why. She's like
that's not how it goes.
That
is not how it goes.
Look, you gotta be a little assertive with Lola, just a little bit. She like I don't know why she likes us so much, but she does. It's kind of weird, but it is.
I don't know. I ain't trying to argue, man. I just want to chop it up. But go ahead, keep going, Lola.
No, Rush, I'm not disagreeing with any and every point. All I'm saying is that when we say you have to have the Ruach, right, that's usually the Christians go to for you're not Christian, you don't agree with me, and because of that, nothing you say is valid. That's their go-to for saying I don't have to listen to anything logical that you're saying. I can stay steeped in whatever the hell I'm doing because you don't have the Spirit of God like I do. And meanwhile, people don't even understand what the word spirit means based on how the Bible have even used that word in the English. And then on top of that, it just doesn't make sense for them to sit there and say, well, I won't listen to someone that doesn't have the Spirit, but I will listen to someone I've never met that just wrote some shit somebody found in the desert. And I just think that they got the Spirit. Like this is silly season, and this is why I don't indulge in these definitions. All I do is keep an open heart, and I seek to learn sincerely, and this is how I've learned everything I've learned. And honestly, I've had to wait on answers from unseen places. Like I've asked questions and I've had to have the answer revealed to me over time. Like that's how that at some times that's how it has been. So I'm not saying that, it's something that I don't respect people believing in, right? But I've noticed that statement is usually the go-to argument when someone doesn't want to admit that maybe they're wrong about something, because they'll say, well, you don't have the Spirit. I've seen Christians and Muslims argue like that amongst each other, and one say the other one doesn't have a spirit. And I'm saying all of y'all, for how the Bible uses the term spirit, is in a state of mind of what's called fitna or confusion. Like that's what y'all in. Y'all are in a state of mind of fitna and confusion because nobody wants to actually listen and contemplate. Nobody wants to do that.
I mean, why did the Crusades happen? Right? Because they both thought they was right, and they both thought they were driven by God to go at war. Right?
Listen, but here's the thing, that just goes to the point of, if everybody feels like they have the Spirit, right? No matter what they're doing, there's no rules on that, nothing, right? In reality, I mean, Christianity and Islam is more dangerous, according to them, than voodoo. Seriously. Like, let's be honest, it's more dangerous because at the end of the day, anybody can get in their mind they got the Spirit and just come and do some more wild shit. Meanwhile, in other religions, that's not how it is. Like, that's not how it goes.
Listen, them Muslims and Christians are ready to delete you. They are. They're ready to delete you, and they're ready to put on friendship.
No, I'm not going to say that. No, I'm not going to say Muslims and Christians are ready to delete you. Some Muslims and Christians are ready to delete people because everybody has it in their mind. They have the Spirit of God telling them some shit. And it's like, this is where the mental illness starts.
Not delete you, I use the wrong terminology. Condemn you.
Okay, condemn, delete, whatever the case may be. They feel that inside themselves. That is their feeling, right? There's no way for even them to confirm that. Now, if most people feel that way, and most people are doing what they're doing, that tells you that most people are delusional, meaning that they're living in their own mental space of what reality is versus what actually is happening. So it's like
they'll be quick to say, "Oh, you're evil," right? You experienced it, Lola. You had a stream, somebody called you evil, right? And it was very religious, right?
Yeah.
Like, yo, you evil. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I remember.
And yes, we all have evil ways, right? All of us, even you people who are very religious, you have evil ways too. All right, y'all don't think y'all do, but y'all be full of shit. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, right? A lot of times that happens. They will be quick to condemn you and say and label you and say that you're evil based on the fact that you don't believe completely of what they're saying.
Well, they're misinformed on their own religious beliefs, because at the end of the day, if God creates good and evil, then evil is a part of God. It is God, and good is God and a part of God at the same time. Now, I know that might be a mind bender, but if what comes from God is good and evil, right? You need to reassess what you think good and evil is. So if God in and of itself has created me as an extension of its own consciousness, right? Then obviously by default, I have good and evil, however you want to define that, in me. So it's like, for someone to say, well, you should only have good in you, that doesn't make sense to how reality is set up. But again, when you understand what good and evil is, then you'll understand what you're really talking about. I don't believe that anything is particularly good or evil. It's not. It seems that way to the unknowing eye. But there's no such thing as good. There's no such thing as evil. And that is my personal belief based on my personal walk. But there's no such thing as good.
It's all based on what you want to put up with. Like in any relationship, right? It could be your parents, anybody.
No, I'm just talking about in the universe. Like good. Like if I asked you what makes a thing good?
I'm talking about both. I'm talking about within the universe as far as like your own consciousness, what you believe in. Your own essence and your own morals and thoughts, but also relationally is also what you believe or what you want to put up with. Because
that's a small version of it.
I know, but what I'm saying is this: like, you may be doing stuff, right? Let's say, let's say you and Russia together, right? I'm not saying that y'all. I'm just using an example, right? And you may be doing something, and I'm like, yo, Russ, you need to leave Lola. You're like, I'm good. I'm like, yo, but you need to leave. You're like, nah, but I'm good. Right? Now, he's want to put up with whatever evil you're throwing out there. Let's say the other, it was turned around. Let's say he was doing something evil. He was telling you to leave, and you said you was good, right? You know what I mean? Like, you decided that you were willing to put up with this amount of evil to be with this person. You know what I mean? I think that's true for everybody. You know what I'm saying? It's meant to be distracting, Square Mo. It's meant to be. But I will turn it down a little bit, though.
Okay, so I'll say this. Based on my knowledge, right? When you ask a human being what is good, right? Usually the human being is going to tell you everything that makes it feel good, like that it's like, okay, you know, this is good because it works for me and it makes things very pleasurable to me, right? But if you ask, let's say, if you ask the universe or the earth, okay, what is good? The earth is going to say, well, cleansing myself of things that cause me to be sick is good. Human beings is one of the things that need to be cleansed off the face of the earth that makes the earth sick. But that's a good thing for the earth. However, that means something quote unquote bad for you because it's not convenient for you, right? So what is good? There's no such thing as good when it comes to evil, right? If God is causing the evil to happen because it needs it to happen the way it said for it to happen, then how can it be inherently evil for the definition of evil? Therefore, my contention is that there is no such thing as evil. It's not. There's no. We are saying that to make sense of things in a world full of duality. But there is no such thing as evil. If, for instance, let's say something bad happens to you, right, and it causes you to come to a place in your life where you find something great because of that thing that happened bad. Are you saying that God was evil for letting that thing happen to you? Or are you saying God was good because it forced you to find something else that was better? Like, you're back and forth between this good and evil, good and evil. There is no such thing as good and evil, at least in my estimation. There's only the universe that is teaching you a lesson because you incarnated here to learn something, to experience something. And that experience has to be taught to you over time. It's nothing you're going to get, because if that was the case, life wouldn't mean anything. So to say good and or evil, we're taking these words down to our individual expressions as human beings, and that's not what that is. There's a book by Nietzsche. I think it's called Nietzsche. I forgot the name of it, but it was talking about the difference between good and evil, and that there is no good and evil. I read that book as well as other books, and even in my own estimation, like, I've seen things happen to me, right, that seem bad. But then I realized that, well, if that thing wouldn't have happened to me, this other good thing wouldn't have happened to me. So was that really a bad thing? It's only bad in my perception because in the moment I can't see the future. But if I took myself out of the moment and took a neutral position, nothing that happened within, quote unquote, if you're religious, the will of God could be evil, inherently evil. That's not what that is. It might go against you, meaning you might feel resistance. But resistance doesn't mean evil. Like a doctor causing you pain to help your leg get better when it's broken, that's not evil. It just means that you're feeling resistance and you don't like it. But that's what that's supposed to be. That doesn't mean that it's evil.
Let me answer these two questions real quick by BK. All right. He said the universe teaches you something, a good thing. I answer all three, right? And I'll say this, right? Like, let's look back in the times of Jesus, right? And you had like the Colosseum, right? You had the Roman Colosseum, and if you broke a law, right, they would throw you in the Colosseum, right? And if you got thrown in the Colosseum, you might be having to fight a bunch of soldiers. You may have to fight like 2 lions at a time, and that's how they dealt with. You know what I mean? If you broke certain laws within that system. With us, if we do that now, we would say that's inhumane, right? We would say that's wrong, right? You know what I mean? I mean when they had the Guantanamo Bay thing, right? And they captured the terrorists, they kept them there. People were complaining that these are terrorists, right? These are people that are trying to destroy our own land, right? Allegedly. Now, or from the evidence that they found out. Now we're saying that the way we're treating them, somebody who's coming here to try to disrupt and cause harm to the people here, we're saying that their conditions are inhumane, right? Why should we even care? If you're coming to destroy my home and delete my family, I don't care what happens to you when you get thrown in prison. I don't care what they do to you. But in a society, our level of what we believe is humane and inhumane is based on really who's in charge and what's the laws of the land, honestly. Because the laws of the land during that time dictate that means that's good for that to happen, right? Back in those days, yeah, the Colosseum was good. That's what they thought. But we think that's inhumane. Just like certain things that we eat, or certain habits that we do, right? We may eat certain foods and it's even true today. We eat certain foods that are banned in other places, right? We eat certain meats that they don't even eat in other places, right? So if it's that common on those type of levels, and that's and I'm just using those as examples, right? Then when it comes to the presence of good and evil, it's subjective based on your experience, where you grew up, and the rules and the laws of the land. You know what I'm saying? It's subjective based on that. It's not all around one thing. Because we live in America, we have gone through certain experiences, right? Some of us may have traveled abroad, right? But we are Americanized, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. We just have an American experience. But if you have somebody that lives in Europe or Africa or Hawaii or wherever else, I'm just saying any foreign land, where I know Hawaii is a part of America, don't get on me, y'all, right? New Zealand, wherever. They have a different experience than we do. They don't have the same experience. So their level of morality and their level of what they believe is right or wrong is going to be different. You know what I'm saying? And it will be, and it should be. You know what I mean? And their level of communication, their level of tolerance, their level of everything is going to be different. If you go in certain countries, they will have adult programming early in the day. Like they will literally have this in the middle of the day. They were like, nah, man, we don't want to have that here. Like we have kids and stuff like that. Or even certain things when it comes to the whole gender thing, right? Where we see that they're doing certain things as far as having open genders and things of that nature in America. Other places, like if you go to Nigeria, certain places, they don't play that. They have told people if you have a different gender or you practice certain things as far as, with intimacy with the same sex, like we don't allow that. So, morality and what's good and right is all based on the laws of the land, where you're from, and your culture and what you believe. You know what I mean? Do I believe certain things are right and wrong? You know what I mean? So BK, I definitely agree with you that certain things are right and wrong, but that's based on my perception. You know what I mean? So yeah, I know slavery was legal once, bro. You're right. So we believe that's wrong. But certain places they believe slavery is okay. You know what I mean? Some people, they still have some areas still have like the what do you call it, the caste system, I guess in India, something like that. Where it's like if you are not part of a certain family, you're still not part of a certain class. You are looked at as trash, and if you are part of a certain class, you're looked at as good, and that's how they move. So it's just based on those are determining factors, as well as religion as well, that can determine whether you believe something is good, evil, or indifferent. Go ahead, Rush. I know Rush had it. Then speaking. Salute to Marcus. I know you want to speak too, Lola, but I know I want to get Rush in here too as well.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much, these books within the Bible, whatever, it explains to you that the Most High is the author of good and evil, and that it's very imperative to have the correct interpretation of scriptures with Yah's divine spirit. I mean, now, for example, if you read the book of Acts, right, it gives you the breakdown on how they was tarrying to receive Yah's divine spirit, and that right there should let you understand how important it is to receive this Yah's divine spirit, because it's the only way of quote unquote having the ability to be born again. I mean, and that's one of those things, see what I mean? It's mad important for your soul, because your soul is it's an infinite energy, man. It's not finite. That it lives forever. So you want to be in a good spot when you know what I mean, when you cross some roads, and the only way to to be in the safe spot is to believe in Yah's son, and accept him, in your life,
Mr. Best, did you want to respond to that? Mr. Best, are you there? Rush, do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, I think Mr. Best might have stepped away. I mean, you know, I don't subscribe to that belief system per se. Don't get me wrong, I subscribe to, you know, certain things that are lessons coming out of the biblical canons, but a specific belief system based on these books is something that I don't subscribe to personally. But to the points being made here as far as like objective morality and things like that, it's like that's the point. Like your objective reality of what morality is besides the point here. The issue of the universe teaching you something, everyone has had a circumstance where they've asked a question in their mind to, you know, what they believe is God. And everyone's doing the same thing. They're asking a question. No matter what you believe you're asking it to, you're asking a question. And you could be anywhere and the answer will pop up. Like one time I asked a question about something. I was standing on the street and I was just thinking about it. And then a bus came past with the answer written right on the side of the bus. And I didn't tell anybody what I was thinking. I was just thinking and I was just asking the question and it just came right there. At other times, I wanted to understand something or know something, and then it was years before it was revealed to me what the answer is. Then at other times, I mean, it took up a different you know, way that it revealed itself to me. But at the end of the day, you know, this is what's happening, and it's undeniable. So it doesn't matter what your relationship is with what you believe you're praying to. I don't even think that matters. But the fact that everyone's doing the same thing and getting the same result, like that should tell you something. So this is where the conversation about demons are coming in, because the word demon, like I said, has a negative connotation to it. However, you know, if, you know, the source of all reality is good and bad, you know, it as far as like what we understand that as, like it itself is that, then we can't attribute anything demonic to any spirit. It's all God's spirit, like taking up residency within someone. The only issue is sometimes we see things that seem to be combative to our homeostasis. You know, like if you see someone floating or their body being thrown around or them doing something that's harmful to their body, you would say, you know, okay, obviously whatever this is not supposed to be here because it's going against the homeostasis of that person, that organism. However, to say this is a demon, that's a stretch. Because if you want to look at it for real, whenever, you know, we've heard stories about the devil, no one was floating, or heads was spinning around and spitting and cursing and all that other stuff. In fact, I mean, let's be honest, the devil or the you know, Satan, he's the smoothest person in these books. Like he don't come and things get to going haywire and wild. He don't come talking crazy now. I'm just saying he the original smooth criminal. He not doing that. So what's actually going on? Is there more than the devil out here? Like, what's happening? So this is what I'm saying. Like, when we talk about demon possession, it's like demon possession is something that isn't understood. Like, it's not understood. We're trying to understand it because of the enigma of consciousness being at the root of that conversation. But I will say that I'll say this, me and Mr. Best was speaking about this, I think last week. And I was saying how a friend of mine has said that she believes that people can essentially die earlier than when their body expires. And, you know, as far as like possession is concerned, it was like a depossession, right? And she explained that in her grandmother's case, that she felt that her grandmother had passed on, but her body was still operational, like basically like a vegetable, but she was no longer there. Like the lights were on, but nobody was home, sort of situation. But she was still functional, but she was no longer there. It was just a body that was still going because the switch hadn't been flipped to tell it to just expire. And this is what she said she experienced, because I mean, her grandmother would remember who she is and who everyone else is, but whatever was there wasn't her grandmother in that body anymore. And she felt that it was just the body still operating on memory, not actually having a conscious entity at the seat of consciousness within it. And so it just took me back to the conversation that, you know, if your consciousness can remove itself or be removed from your body, then another consciousness can be placed there. The only issue I have right now is that this seems to be beyond the scope of what we can physically do, like consciously, right? And I kind of feel like it would be nice to understand how to do this, right? But if human beings had the knowledge of how to move their consciousness from their bodies to other things, other bodies, whatever, I don't believe that we would do the right thing in terms of like something that, as you know, BK might have alluded to, something that's morally correct, or you know, something like that. I do believe that humanity is still in its infancy when it comes to, you know, understanding technology and using it for their greater good. Right now, we're like babies. We're figuring it out, but we're doing more damage with it than what we're actually building with it. So, you know, if we could figure out, well, what demon possession is and move it around and then utilize it, right? I don't believe we would even utilize it correctly. I think we probably drop the ball right now, because on mass scales, we're not even asking the question of what is consciousness. We're not. You know, we're asking, you know, we're just asking how can we colonize other planets. Like, that's what we're asking. We're not asking how can we travel the universe without physical like ships. You know, like everybody say you got to get in the ship, it needs fuel, you got to go someplace with it. And it's like, if we understand consciousness can move itself different places at faster than the speed of light, why are we talking about moving in spaceships? This is why I say we're in our infancy and we're not really ready for what the answer to that question is. Although we do have the propensity to understand, but we don't have the capability of actually using it the correct way, because as a whole, we're not operating as a whole. Like right now, this conversation we're having, this is an individual conversation, right? But if we had, let's say, companies sitting at the table right now, right, they wouldn't be so apt for us not using fuel, because they have their investments in people using fuel. So they couldn't make a moral decision when it comes to, well, helping individuals understand how, quote unquote, Jesus called consciousness back into a dead body, how he moved consciousness from one place to another, or consciousness allowed itself to be moved from our consciousness to an animal. I'll be honest with you, I think the U.S. government, if they understood how to move consciousness, they would be using animals to go to war. They put themselves in rats and you know, attaching all sorts of explosives to rats and running them into people's countries and stuff. Like, it wouldn't be anything nice and good. So, you know, I think maybe humanity is barred from that information right now until we've matured out as a species. But I mean, it's interesting to think that our thoughts travel faster than the speed of light, and our consciousness is moving with our thoughts, and we can move our consciousness outside of our body and go to the furthest parts of the universe in the shortest amount of time. Yet we can only do that without a vehicle, like just ourselves. Like that's I think that's what maybe Jesus and different people in history have said when they spoke about humanity lacking knowledge, not an ability to do a thing, but the knowledge that of what to do, not so much the ability. That's what I feel like is missing. So I mean, demon possession, honestly, I've seen more people that just have different personalities that are sitting there, and that's a natural thing, and they come out. Like my mother, she often had 3 personalities that she dealt with on any given moment, and I understood each one of those personalities, and I could see it. But she also suffered from mental disease as well, and or let's say blood disease, and this is something I live with, but this was her. And it just is what it is. Like I think the Bible gives us hints at the fact that we have more than one nature. And like Mr. Best said, there's different sides of me that's very different, and I'm aware of it. And they operate different in my mind. Like one can be in control, and then the other one can say, "Nope, I'm in control now," and he's fully aware of which one is in control. But this is something that's happening on an unseen level that we can't physically show you proof of. You have to actually have your own experience to know. So it's like this is the final frontier, But I that's me. You there, Mr. Best? I know he ain't out here getting no sandwiches.
Well, I mean, I could, I mean, I definitely don't agree with everything you're talking about, but respectfully, I think this is good dialogue.
Yeah. I mean, keep in mind, it makes good precedent for technology. Because right now this conversation is really categorized by theoretical physics, not actual physics, but theoretical physics. Really, because people can't understand what was happening long time ago. That's why it's categorized as theoretical physics. That it's something that like my son, he was getting into, like as far as like his theory on black holes. It's a theory for now, right? But it's theoretical in that, essentially in his thesis, he argued that black holes is nothing more than space acting in a different resonance than it does in another part of, space. It's just like, for instance, your bones are resonating at a different frequency than the water in your body, right? Just different resonance. Same thing. As far as like a body, like if you look at the universe as a whole thing, there's points in it where it's resonating at a higher frequency than not, and lower frequencies too. And so, my son argued that it's just space, just at a different frequency. That's it. It's not like it goes anywhere else. It's just a different level of space based on its resonance. So it's kind of mind bending what he put in his paper, but at the end of the day, we're talking about technology, and so what would we do with it if we knew how to use it? If we knew how to call people back from the dead, would anybody rest in peace? Probably not.
Yeah, I mean the analogy with the black hole, I think is pretty unique. Definitely, it's a good analogy to I guess get your point across.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm interested in black holes, But I think that that's a different level of reality that we might not be ready for, because all we know is time stops at the horizon. That's all we know for sure. That's all we know. Time stops. And it's like, what does that mean? Time stops.
I mean, when it comes to like quantum physics and trying to figure out things like that, dealing with the black hole, that's like, that's beyond my level,
It's beyond their level, and they're the ones that went to school for it.
Yeah, I mean, hey, this is definitely a good dialogue, Yeah, man. I mean, yeah. When it comes to like, certain knowledge, man, I mean, like as somebody who, studies, things like that, they don't put in a lot of, years into, study certain things because they dedicated their life to it. They're able to have a better understanding on, how those things actually work,
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not gonna like downplay anybody that's a researcher on, dealing with the black hole,
I'll say, I remember when I was a child, right? And as far as like the whole idea of like, consciousness being supplanted, right? And moving itself. I remember when, like in church, when they did the whole laying on the hands and people were, going into, their lift fits or whatever. I remember feeling like I wanted to do that too, right? And I wanted to be a part of what was happening. And I remember no matter how many people touched me, nothing happened. I didn't feel like doing anything, like nothing happened. Like, and I was genuinely trying to catch this thing or whatever the case may be, and nothing happened. And I always felt like I was ostracized because of that. Because the pastor touch you and you just sitting there looking at him like, okay, I don't feel anything. And you keep on doing that and like you're really trying and stuff, they're gonna stop touching you, and then it's gonna kind of be kind of awkward. But that's what happened to me, and I realized that the whatever spirit or mindset that I'm in, it's not going to come through someone else touching me. That's not what happened. Maybe my journey is different than theirs, but one thing I don't like is when certain religious groups feel that what they're dealing with is a clean spirit versus possession, and everybody else is dealing with demons. Like, I don't like that. I've seen on both sides people do that, from here to Africa, from Africa to the Orient. I've seen people do that. And that right there is just plain stupid. Because if I played a video without sound of people of being possessed in the Christian community, and then went over to the Church of Shango, and then went over to Voodoo, and then went over to Ocha, and then went over to all these different East Indian and East Asian religions, you would be like, it's the same thing. It's no different. All of them have spirits that they're welcoming, that's taking over their body. So what is the difference? So what's going on? All of them, demons, or all of them just, a phenomena that happens amongst human beings, because we are non-physical entities at the end of the day that's neither born or die. Like, what's happening? And, it's interesting how people can feel that their possession is better, and now they've religiousized possession. And everybody feels like, well, they can be possessed by something outside of themselves when they want to, and everybody else is just being forced, right? And this is just ridiculous. I put everybody in all possession in the same box. It's possession. What is it? It could be human beings at its finest. Don't have to be anything else outside of ourselves. or it could be something outside of ourselves. But let's be clear that you're talking about something that might be dangerous, and it might be for your own good. Who knows? But, you know, or it could be something entirely, Mister.
Whatever it is, whether you're speaking about black holes or you're speaking about possession, or you're speaking about different things, these are things that are outside of our possession. You know what I mean? So it's outside of the things that we're seeing on a normal day-to-day basis, right? Because we ultimately, right, live in a box, right? We are living the Truman Show, right? We go home, we go to work, go to sleep, you know what I mean? Like, we do certain things over and over again, you know what I mean? So we really are living out the Truman Show, you know what I mean? Where we just have a habit of doing things over and over and over and over again. Yeah, you may go to a different restaurant. Yeah, you may travel different places. You may have different experiences, but relatively, you're doing the same thing over and over again. You know what I mean? Like, you know what you're going to do tomorrow, Lola. You already know in your mind. Russ, you know what you're going to do tomorrow. You already know in your mind. You have those things somewhat mostly planned out most of the time, right? If you are a business person or business professional, if you're going to school or even if you're retired, you most of the time kind of know, have an idea, or you have aspirations of doing certain things. You know what I mean? You know that, okay, if you're working, I'm going to catch the 8 o'clock train, right? I'm going to get up at 6 a.m., work out, and that's going to, and then I'm going to catch the 5 o'clock train, get home at 6:30, cook my steak and mashed potatoes, eat, watch the TV for an hour, and I'm going to bed. That is essentially my day, right? And we do these things around the clock. So when something breaks the plane, right? You know what I mean? That's out of our regular normality or out of our schedule or out of our sense of reality, right? You know what I'm saying? Now it's cancerous, right? It's abnormal. It's an abnormality, right? It's not the same. So when something breaks the plane of our reality, and salute to Lady Phoenix. Hey, Lady Phoenix, good to see you. Good to see you. You know what I mean? Haven't seen you in a while, but good to see you. You know what I mean? But yes, you know what I mean? So with that being said, and yes, ladies are first, and ladies will be first March 25th, because ladies' night is coming back March 25th. And let me tell you something, March 25th will be here in no time. Spring is coming, people. Super Bowl is over. So that means the spring is on its way. All right. We have about 3.5 weeks till spring, which is my time of the year, because that's the time I'm born. All right. Spring is coming. All right. Time to get your leather. Time to get your jean jackets and all that ready, all right? Time to put the snorkel away, okay? The snorkel goes in the closet about 3.5, 4 weeks. Time to get that leather and that jean jacket. Let's get it, y'all. All right, so ladies' night will be back March 25th. So yes, when something breaks our consciousness, right, or it breaks the normality of what we do, then yeah, it makes things different. You know what I mean? So that is what it is. What y'all think?
I mean, I can only say that it kind of to a degree goes back to what we were saying some weeks ago when we were talking about deja vu, where our consciousness is aware of things like that we're not necessarily overtly conscious of, but we can kind of tell the future and the past at the same time, which means that either we've already lived it, or two, our non-physical self exists in a place in which time doesn't exist. So at times we can feel where we are and where we are not in time space, because we don't exist in time, which is weird. I get it. But I mean, you know, I just think that there's an overlap of information as it pertains to who and what we are for real, because again, you're interacting with a physical body when you're in front of me, but in reality, I'm not that physical body. Like, I'm something else that you've never seen. And I mean, that something else you've never seen exists in a non-physical place. So I'm operating in this avatar, but you've never seen me. I've never seen you. We don't even know what we look like, what we are. And in that non-physical space, like, we don't even recognize each other non-physically based on the physical world, meaning when you walk into a room and you can feel, let's say, a family member that has passed on, you're not feeling anything physical. You're not looking at anything physical that is causing that. It's something within your non-physical self that's resonating with her, and you know that, or her or him that is in the room, that's who they are. I've had experiences like that where I've come in contact with non-physical entities, and I knew who they were, and I had never met them before. So my non-physical self is beyond this physical realm, that I already know things, and it's only because of this conscious mind that has to be in this physical 3D world that can't really be concerned with every and all things everywhere at the same time, to which it seems like I don't know everything, but in reality I do. Because, like, for instance, everything that you have to be aware of right now can't be in the forefront of your mind. You have to be aware of your heartbeat, the air pressure, like every single thing. That's a lot of information. Most of is in the back of your mind being taken in and regulated. So it's like, when I experience certain things that is beyond this physical world, the only answer is the truth of what I am is beyond this physical world. So when people say, you don't die, that is true. Now, some people believe when you die, you go to a bad place. I believe that bad place is right here. You like if you're a physical being now, a non-physical being now that doesn't die, this is your reality. Like this right here. Like, so, I mean, there's some weird stuff out here in the universe, but again, part of the reason I feel like we don't know is because we're just not at a level where we can know that without it causing damage. I've heard people say there's different dimensions, right? There may be some truth to that from a scientific level, but that's what, and that's why I say that there could very well be some truth to that. Have I experienced that? No, but I do think if I was a part of that experience that you referenced, that I might have a different perspective of what reality is. If I've physically, like my physical body, has been taken to a place separate from this 3D reality and brought back.
Once you have like life and death experiences, let's say you have a disease, or let's say you have different things that you're going through, you have life and death experiences, it's going to change your perception. Now, I mean, there's certain things that I've gone through, and now based on things that I've been through, I would never do the same thing ever again. And some people may be like, well, no, you should, or no, you should be this way. And it's like, nah, that should change my perception. You know what I mean? And once certain things become a reality to you, and you have certain experiences, you can't go back. You can't.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's what happens. That's what happens to certain people, which is why